Kasi kung may copyright. Monetization. Okay. Ay! Thank you! May boses ba?
You know what I think, but if Max has a 10-second lead, he'll go down with it. That was the best
Hindi kaya ako si PR.
The undercut around the back.
Thank you.
And goes the low line and almost a low point with both Alpines taking each other out.
The only way it can work is if you're super close to the car in front on entry and you throw it down the inside and you cut them off on the exit because
struggle to keep this pace.
on lap 5 he's worried about the tyres already.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
Yeah,
Quite
exactly.
often he finds some pace.
Some of it might be mind games, but we will have to wait and see. But this track is really tough on tyres because you're fully loaded on that left front for a very long period of time at very high G.
And because we had long interruptions in FP1 and FP2 for red flags, teams just didn't get the running in that they would have desired to try and establish just how long these tyres can go for. So everything is theory at the moment, whilst we see the practice out on the track. And this is Esteban Ocon. Cheeky, committed, rolls. Oh, how squirrely did Alonso look coming out of that turn.
But he wasn't able to cut him off at the exit, so Fernando, with that wide line, is able to get a much better exit, and it's possible for Ocon to get past.
You remember back-to-back at the restart, Fernando Alonso picked up 4 places in 2 laps. He was trying something similar here. It was off-roading at times. Did he touch there?
A little bit,
Yeah.
and it's unsettled Ocon a little bit, but this is the weird one. Every lap in practice, they've done the high line, and then suddenly in the race, they've decided that the low line is the better line.
Hello everyone!
It certainly doesn't. But what was the paddock talk, Ted Kravitz, at the first
kaya ako
Kravitz and middle turn 3 with the right line?
Try ko lang
was
ito.
Fernando Alonso this week.
Yeah, and he certainly
Was Fernando Alonso this week.
Yeah, and he certainly did with that, although Ocon has been quicker and has got eventually past. The line from McLaren, Team Radio.
The trip is slow in front.
Ocon's much quicker. He is much quicker. Only a matter of time before he gets past. We'll see whether he manages to do it. Line from McLaren. We know smoking's bad for you, but the car has stopped smoking. And from McLaren, they say there's no issue with Daniel Ricciardo's car. Okay, so whatever he did, Karim was talking about on the steering wheel, has worked. And a quick one, Mick Schumacher, you saw him in the pit stop, must have taken about 30 seconds to change the front nose. He's come together, he came together with somebody and has rejoined but last.
Thanks ever so much, Ted. I wonder who makes the call on that Alpine pit wall if they are going to employ team orders. Sergio Perez, that's a huge lock-up going into Tarzan. That's not going to do the hard tyres any favours.
He's probably not really working them that much because it is a super hard tyre. It's the hardest tyre that we actually have in Formula 1 this year. So, yeah, you can see the flat spot there. But that radio call from Ocon would have been, he's not actually that much quicker, but please let me past. I think I can do a better job.
It does show you just how difficult it is to overtake here at Zandvoort if Sergio Perez is struggling to get past Nikita Mazepin in the Haas. We've got the Red Bull, which is the fastest car this weekend, struggling to get past the slowest car this weekend and locking up as a result of it. Out in front, 3 seconds the gap. Verstappen over Hamilton. Let's go to Sky Race Control. Once again, Valtteri Bottas first.
Just played the long game.
Patience, Valtteri. Patience. Karoon to you.
Well, interestingly, they've been telling Max Verstappen on the radio that Valtteri is now 6 seconds behind. So they effectively tell him, look, your race is really only with Lewis. In terms of the time management, we heard Lewis there talking about his tyres. They've told him to manage the tyres a bit more, which is basically don't load it as hard. Through this corner properly, we're watching turn 7. It's like Verstappen is taking it easier through those double rights, and it's allowing his tyres to relax a little bit. Giancarlo Lambesi, Max Verstappen's engineer, meanwhile, has been on the radio to say everything looks good exactly as we saw in FP2. What we must remember, of course, Lewis Hamilton didn't do FP2 with that engine issue. And this, I think, is coming into play here. Verstappen's got the experience on long runs, and Lewis Hamilton doesn't.
Well, he did actually have a lot run in FP3 though on the soft tyre. You're talking about the long right-handers there, the double long right-hander. It was perfect because we actually could listen to Max Verstappen through those two corners, and he's so far off the throttle pedal. Where normally through the first one, and
Formula
a
1.
tiny little lift and back on. But today he is cruising it through those two because those are the ones that really punish that front.
Try ko. Wala naman, hindi naman nag-green yung hindi naman nag-yellow yung dollar sign ko.
Zandvoort were led from start to finish between 1952 and 1964. We're on lap 9 at the moment, and leading from lights out to this moment is Max Verstappen, looking very cool and very calm and very composed, but I'm sure it's a very different matter in the cockpit as Ferrari say, let's go to plan B. Now, is that a shorter first stint, I wonder? Try and gain some clear air, some track position to bang in some quicker lap times.
I mean, we can guess all we like, but we'll see soon. But this is the dream scenario for Max. He's got a nice little gap on Lewis, and it means he can look after his tyres. Because, as you said, they've had such a short amount of time on this track to actually have long runs. They don't really know where the degradation is going to go, but Lewis might be holding back equally.
Here's really interesting. Sergio Perez is pitting, no doubt because of those flat spots that we saw on the hard compound tyre. But he's coming out onto the track now, just as Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are making their way, as you can see, around the final corner. So I wonder how long before Max Verstappen has a chance to lap.
Hello, Erico Badudes.
It might be in a very good position to just hold up.
Nanonood sila ngayon. Ito yung pinapanood nila ngayon. Lahat ng Dutch. Pinapanood nila ito ngayon.
Thinking about it, albeit accidental because of those flat spots. 1,000 race laps led for Max Verstappen, 23 years old, and he has reached 1,000 laps led in his Formula One career. The only Dutchman ever to lead a Formula One Grand Prix as we head to Karun Chandon.
So they think Lewis Hamilton switching to a two-stop probably. He's done the fastest lap. They told him.
Okay, Checo. Vibrations are too high. Yes, pit. So that's a long way to go. Still points to be had.
That's completely ruined his race on hard time. They told Lewis target -7. So as Jensen knows, that means from the plan, we're going to pit 7 laps earlier. Look at him, the car squirming around. The body language, the attitude of the car tells me that is a guy who's taking everything out of the tires. He's going to pit early. Are they switching to a two-stop? But Red Bull start to think so. They just told Max, we think Lewis is switching to a two-stop.
So,
okay, Max, Hamilton potentially switching into a two-stop. Looks like he's been given the hurry up. Last lap of 14.7. Gap at 2.8.
So what does Max Verstappen do now? Does he respond by pushing and going for a two-stop himself? Or does he think...
Tito Mitch, good PM sa'yo. Who's leading that karerahan? I think Hamilton versus Verstappen. Verstappen is a Dutch. It's a Dutch. It's a Dutch. And then Hamilton is galing siya sa sa London. Yung dinadrive ni Hamilton is Mercedes. Yung kay Verstappen, yung dinadrive ni Verstappen is ano nga ito? Red Bull. Tapos si Bottas, ano din yan, Mercedes. Si Gasly? Wait, anong dinadrive ni Gasly? I-search ko muna dinadrive ni Gasly,
up against one car from the championship rivals.
Si Gasly, tapos si Leclerc, ano ata yan? Mercedes din ata. Red Bull ang nangunguna, guys. Red Bull. Dutch. Go, Dutch.
Rapid stop.
Verstappen, go. Tuwan-tuwa mga Dutch people ngayon kasi number 1 si Verstappen.
To slow pit stops down that was brought in at Spa, but
nasakyan mo yung Mercedes kagabi. Wow. Thank you guys for million in the house. Hindi ko alam kung may ano to, kung pagagalitan ako ni Lolo. Try ko lang ito, guys, pero hinashtag ko naman sila eh. First time ko to.
I think what they're looking for in about 7 laps time potentially, as we're on board with Lance Stroll, try and slot into a gap behind Charles Leclerc if they can, or behind Carlos Sainz if they can, and run the race from there.
Vettel has just pitted. He was 2 cars behind us.
Naka-LS ako dahil. Naka-LS ka din, madam? Madam, ano may gagawin ako ngayon? May bisita kami.
Clean air
Siningit ko lang itong pagla-live ko ngayon. Nandun sila sa baba, nandito ako sa taas. Tapos siningit ko lang itong pagdadrive. Pagdadrive. Ano ba yun, Erika Badudes? Mamaya ako, madami bisita ako. Magluluto ako ng snacks nila mamaya after nilang manood. Oo. Ka-start ko lang, madam, okay ba itong ginagawa ko? Hindi pa ako mapagalit ni Lolo.
So yeah, he is right, but the problem is you pit.
Sige, madam, bisita ako sa bahay mo.
Nobody's overtaken yet on the track or in practice.
After kasi nito, guys, iinom ako. Tatagay kami nung kapatid niya.
Sergio Perez on Nikita Mazepin, but no overtakes doing so far. Ted, down to you.
I can hear some wheel guns being practiced in the pit lane, but it's so early for a pit stop. We'll see what Vettel makes of it. Maybe he had a cause to come in so soon, but yeah, they wanted to get to at least that 25 on these tyres, and maybe more on the ones that Lando Norris is on, but still he can't get past Lance Stroll. As you can see, Alonso, the old fox, has been told by his team, look, Esteban behind, your teammate is quicker. He says, oh, well, I could go quicker. I'm just trying to protect my tyres, not getting too close to Carlos Sainz ahead. See, he thought that one through, hasn't he?
He might have used it a couple of times in his career before.
Hala, si Bottas nangunguna, pumapangatlo na si Bottas. Alam nyo guys, hate na hate ng mga Dutch si Hamilton. Ay, they hate Hamilton, Dutch people. Shout out Dutch people. Hi, hate na hate nila si Hamilton.
Championship rivals that particular season.
Okay, Nando, so we still think badly. Be patient, our time will come.
This is the thing. It's because it is difficult to overtake. The cars in front can back them up. They can look after the tyres. A car behind is always going to damage his tyres more because in the dirty air, going to produce more understeer maybe on the turn in, and the rear end's not going to be as planted on exit. So, and also the driver behind is getting frustrated, which is the worst thing possible.
The thoughts, just see Nicholas Latifi on track. Car in front of him is Nikita Mazepin, who dives down the inside. So Latifi thinks, fine, I'll go the long way round, faster speed, round the banking. There you go. That's how you overtake at Zandvoort.
Ay, nandiyan ka pa ba, JBL? Ayun o, si Schumacher. Ano ba yan? Nandiyan, no? Pang number 20.
It's round the outside most of the time on these back corners.
Pang number 20 si Schumacher.
Round the outside now. And I think they've been joined by...
Ay, JBL, nakikita mo ba yan? Loko to sa JBL na to, sabi ba naman, no? Ang tawag daw sa, sa German daw, ang chocolate is Van Houten. Mabaho ang Houten.
1:15.2, and that's on the par with Verstappen's pace out in front. And Verstappen and Hamilton both lapping within a tenth of a second of each other. So is this an indication that Verstappen might do 2-2? Or Verstappen's just...
Oo, yung anak ni Schumacher.
Yeah,
ano ba?
The team are obviously feeding him all the
Ayun
information.
na, number 20, oh.
He's the only man of
Number
interest
20,
for Max right
si
now.
Schumacher.
They'll be giving him the lap
Anak siya nung si Schumacher, ay ano na yun, retired na, parang nakoma ata yun. May coma siya. Tapos ito, anak yan nung retired na Schumacher. Tapos sa Verstappen naman, anak din siya. Yung tatay din ni Verstappen, nagre-racing din.
Is it an easy thing for an experienced driver to drive to?
Ay, nandiyan ka pa ba, JBL?
Because you have a plus minus on the dash.
Nakikita mo si Schumacher?
Time of the race might have been a 14.
Number 20.
And then you know plus 5 tenths is where you need to be when you cross that finish line. It updates through every corner of the lap, so you know exactly how close you are to your fastest lap time.
And then in the practice sessions, as you build up to the Grand Prix, you work out where you could push or ease back at certain corners.
Exactly, and you know if you're having to save fuel or look after the brakes, you would be lifting off early into the corners, but using being more aggressive with the tires on the exit to make up that time.
Karun, let's head over to you.
Yeah, Crofty, I think Mercedes has had a bit of a rethink on their plan here. They asked both Lewis and Valtteri to update the tire switch.
Oo, sabi nung banana ko, Erika Badudes, daw, si Schumacher daw, comatose. Magaling nga din daw yun.
We'll have to say the gap, by the way, has now opened up for...
May kilala ka ba, Shoemaker?
Just about. Maybe he needs another lap to get out ahead of Gasly if he does want to pit. That is what you guys were talking about before. He does want to get stuck behind Gasly. He's got a lap away from clearing the Alpha Tauri.
Yeah, if you look at the gap between Hamilton and And Gasly, you're absolutely spot on.
Guys, mahilig din ba kayo sa car-racing?
Sergio Perez.
Pinagbigyan lang yan ng anak. Pinagbigyan lang yan ng anak. Mamaya, mangunguna na yan. Hindi talaga nananalo si Schumacher. Ang laging dito, top si Verstappen, si Hamilton, si Bottas, si Leclerc. Yan. Minsan si Alonso.
Nicely placed down the inside.
Tsaka si Vettel. Yan. Sila talaga yung naglalaban-laban talaga dyan.
One stop, two stop. Have Mercedes switched for a second time their intended strategy? Has it in any way affected the way Red Bull are running their race?
Mahilig kayo sa car racing, guys?
Verstappen and Hamilton on lap 17, and we're watching the battle for 11th place, which is currently held by George Russell. Makes his way through turn 8 for his teammates. Nicholas Latifi went off in qualifying yesterday. One of two red flags brought out by both Williams drivers, crashing quite some speed during that qualifying session. On the fringes of the points here, George Russell, but it's a long afternoon ahead before we start thinking about points in successive races for the Williams driver. He picked, of course, his first podium of this entire career at Williams last weekend. First podium of his entire career, full stop, albeit in a race that wasn't really a race at the start.
Dash position 6 for you, Ken. Dash position 6.
What's menu dash position 6? Lunch? Probably not.
Lewis on the last lap at the fastest per sector of the lap, and that is mostly long corners. So he is pushing. He's not cruising. So he's not taking it easy. So.
Certainly not. So positions gained and lost then at the start of this race.
So at this race, we're not going to interact with the leaders.
Alonso picking up places, as you would have seen. That's quite a message to Valtteri Bottas. Thinly disguised message to say, Valtteri, put your foot down.
That really hurts as a driver. You know, you're on lap 18 of 72 and you've already been told you're not going to be fighting for the win. It's a tough one, that, but his pace doesn't seem to be there. He's already 7 seconds behind his teammates. So almost half a second a lap slower than Lewis. So it's not been best, but then he might be on a different strategy.
Well, he might, but he's not going to interact with the leaders, says the message. Even with that strategy taken into account, which Mercedes, of course, would know. It's the sort of thing that rather justifies the expected decision to come within the next 7 days or so. And George Russell going to Mercedes for next season.
Yeah, it does. And you know, Valtteri's had some fantastic moments in his career at Mercedes, some amazing pole positions and victories, but it just doesn't have the consistency of someone like Lewis. Not many people do.
Expect a raft of announcements in the next 7 days, including George Russell to Mercedes, which is the expected decision there. Valtteri Bottas to Alfa Romeo, and potentially in the next week or so, Alex Albon to Williams. That's looking a little bit better now after Toto Wolff, and he admitted that himself, came out and said, I don't really want to go there. If he's still got attachments to Red Bull, I wouldn't be too happy. A Red Bull driver driving for one of our customer teams.
Yeah, some really interesting radio conversations. Hamilton's getting a whole load of instructions, guys, from the pit wall about HPP engine settings. We see Perez up against Latifi in the DRS, so towards the chicane. Not quite going to get that. Yes, he does, actually. No, that's a great move by Checo Perez, the DRS. But yeah, Hamilton getting lots of instructions there. But I think he's struggling to hear on the radio. All that we hear from him is repeat. He's really struggling. Bottas, by the way, they asked him, Crofty, before you heard that radio message, what pace can you do? Can you get to a 15.1? And he just said, no, that's it. So, yeah, it's not looking great for him today.
No, not at all. Let's have a look at this once again, gents. Sergio Perez and Nicholas Latifi thought he had the upper hand going through turn 10. Latifi came back at him.
He did, and this is actually a really nice move as well. It's nicer to be on the outside here because you do have the clean track, no marbles, which you'll have on the inside, but it's a brave move, but he has to take brave move. Great at fighting through the field. It's a shame he puts himself in that position.
Exactly.
3.7. Last lap 15.3.
the Dutch fans making that much noise that Lewis Hamilton can't hear the team radio quite as well in that particular part of the track. Well, in that particular part of the track, there aren't grandstands.
Oh, number 20 pa din si Schumacher.
Mazepin, Lewis Hamilton has got a couple of cars now in between himself and the race leader and his championship rival, Mazepin and Sebastian Vettel, who have both come in for their first pit stop of this race. Perez has also pitted. After flat spotting his tyres, and we're on board now with Sergio Perez. Robert Kubica is the car ahead of him. Kubica deputising Kimi Raikkonen, who tested positive for COVID. Kubica in his first race since Abu Dhabi 2019 and getting overtaken by Sergio Perez, who's up into 15th. And in comes Lewis Hamilton for his first stop of the race. And I say first stop of the race because I don't expect those medium tyres to go between now and the end of 72 laps. So that decision to go to a two-stop strategy now seems to have been taken by Mercedes, and he's got clean air, making his way out inside line by the Paddock Club. Lewis Hamilton out onto the track, well ahead of Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, nice clear track in front of him, but you know he's chosen his direction now in this race. Here we come into the pit stop.
So tight, isn't it?
It's so tight, and it was reasonably slow pit stop. That front right was the issue.
Yeah. Just a little bit too slow. 3.6 second stop. He's probably lost a second there in the pit lane. Ted, to you.
Yeah, that was messy by Mercedes' high standards. But if Hamilton couldn't have closed on Max Verstappen on his previous set of tyres, then, well, they'll be looking for more performance on this yellow medium tyre. We have seen that, haven't we, Crofty? They did one of the qualifying sessions. Aha! Max is going to react. That's all he has to do today, just cover Lewis.
I was going to ask the question, do they cover Lewis Hamilton and respond?
Yep.
And that's exactly what Red Bull are doing. And if you think Mercedes' pit box is tight, well, it's even tighter for Max Verstappen. But in he comes, 3.6 seconds. Lewis Hamilton was stationary, 2.7 seconds. Max Verstappen was stationary. So Red Bull winning the pit stop battle on this occasion as well.
Yeah, they are, but still not such a quick pit stop for the Red Bull. Obviously, they're trying to keep calm, but it just shows you this tighter pit lane. It definitely is a little bit more stressful for the teams.
It is. I tell you what, they had to do that. They had to respond straight away if they were going to cover off Lewis Hamilton, because he went purple middle, purple final sector, and was about a second quicker through the middle part of the lap, Lewis Hamilton, on these fresher tyres, which are nicely warmed up. But you can just see Max Verstappen in the distance. He should be long enough clear, but I tell you what, that 0.9 of a second difference in the pit stops, how crucial could that be come the end of this race?
Yeah, very crucial. It's amazing, actually, how much he's caught him, because he's got those nice warm tyres, and obviously newer when he put them on than Max's tyres before he pitted. But the issue that Max has now, he's 10 seconds behind a Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, it's a big gap, isn't it? Hamilton still pounding in those purple sectors. Valtteri Bottas leads from Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. We can bring in Christian Horner from the Red Bull pit wall. Christian, I'm assuming that was a no-brainer for you guys. If Lewis pitted, you had to cover him off.
Yeah, exactly that. So, you know, the guys got the car turned around. It's a tight entry into the pit box here as well. So, the most important thing was to keep track position to Lewis.
So far on the soft tyres, you had a distinct pace advantage to the Mercedes. Do you get worried now? Because sometimes the medium tyres interact differently with your cars, don't they?
Yeah, all compounds behave differently. So it's just a matter of obviously bringing the tyres in nice and easily, and they've probably got to go quite a long way. So, of course, they've got Valtteri ahead of us, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him.
Well, I think we know what they're going to do with him, correct? I think they'll be sticking him on a one-stop.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's going to be interesting. I think the two-stop looks a quicker race. So if they're doing that, that's obviously tactically. But you know, the best thing we've got to do is pass them on the track.
Thanks, Christian. We'll be back with you in a little while. So pit stops for Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. As you can see, they now run second and third. The gap to Valtteri Bottas, that was 10 seconds. Now down to about 8 seconds.
What do they think? You need 2.1 seconds pace advantage on the car in front to actually make a move. Well, he kind of has that right now.
Yes, he does. But it's where on the track he gets to Valtteri Bottas. If it's down the straight, then yeah, he's got that pace advantage. He can overtake into turn 1. But I tell you what, from turn 3 onwards, there's not many overtaking spots till he gets to the chicane.
It's one of those things as well, isn't it? If you catch them right, and you can make the move straight away. But if you catch them a little bit wrong and you sit behind him for half a lap, that's you done. You know, then it's very, very difficult to overtake. So you get into that rhythm behind them. But also offline, there's a lot of marbles already. Only 24 laps in.
And you don't want to be picking up marbles on your tyres, although Sergio Perez doesn't care much, because once again, at the chicane, he makes an overtaking move, this time on Yuki Tsunoda. Perez up to 14th. Oh, if he hadn't have been knocked out in Q1 yesterday, what could Sergio Perez have been doing on this track?
Well, it's just wonderful to see the amount of overtaking moves that we're seeing from Checo. He's fully on it, which is really nice to see. If he's at the front, obviously he wouldn't be making those moves because he wouldn't have the tyre advantage that he has now compared to his competitors.
Talking of tyre advantage, just to point out here that Mercedes do have an extra set of the medium tyres that they can use in this race. They used mediums, but they've got an extra set over Red Bull, who, if they are stopping again, are going to have to go soft or hard.
Yeah, I think they'd probably go soft. Well, we'll see how long the medium tyre goes for.
Last set was rear left limited, rear left, as expected.
Powered by AWS, the battle forecast, striking distance on Valtteri Bottas in 3 laps for Max Verstappen. Overtake difficulty. It seems pretty easy according to that graphic, but we shall see as the Ferrari pit crew now get ready, get their hoses out of the way for Pierre Gasly to make his pit stop in this race, his first pit stop, and to go onto the medium compound tyres. It's lap 25 then of 72 here for the Dutch Grand Prix, and so far it's not been too bad for the home favourite Max Verstappen. He might be in second place at the moment, but he has a pace advantage over his championship rival Lewis Hamilton, about 2 seconds clear as it stands, with Valtteri Bottas leading this race because he hasn't come into the pits as yet. We're seeing a few more pit stops. Pierre Gasly has just come in after running a decent solid first in, and he drops down into 7th. Sergio Perez, who flat spotted his tyres in the opening couple of laps, is starting to make his way back up through the field again, and tyre performance powered by AWS, this graphic, Jensen, showing why Valtteri Bottas says he's got vibrations.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the degradation on the left, front and rear. I don't know if you heard the message, but to Lewis from Pete Bonington, his engineer, saying that the left rear is the limitation on the first set of tyres. On the softs, probably going to be very similar on the mediums, I'm thinking. Interestingly, after Ocon's comments earlier on that Fernando isn't fast, Fernando's pulled 6 seconds on him now.
That wily old fox, Ted Kravitz. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, the tyres are definitely dropping a bit more, but I guess they'll do a few laps.
Well, Mercedes wanted to do a few more laps and try and hold up Max Verstappen.
Yeah, sorry, Valtteri, if you weren't fast enough to get involved with the Max and Lewis show, we're going to have to put you on a one-stop and see what you can do. Lewis is great pace on these yellow tyres, isn't he, Crocky?
Yeah.
Really good pace on the medium tyres. So we've seen Pierre Gasly into the pits. That's given Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz an opportunity. They can only go longer now and try and overcut the AlphaTauri of Gasly. Try to go longer and do some good laps, but I think Gasly will have that covered. He's had great pace, Gasly, hasn't he? Looking good value for P4 eventually when the Ferraris cars ahead of him stop.
And that gap between Verstappen and Hamilton has now come down to 1.2 seconds on the last lap. And Hamilton just behind Sebastian Vettel, now just ahead of Sebastian Vettel, maybe getting a bit of DRS to help him down the straights.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if Max is holding back a little bit, because the worst thing for Max is being stuck behind Valtteri, because it's definitely going to give Lewis more of an opportunity. So he might be playing a bit of a game here.
Well, now that the car directly behind him is Lewis Hamilton, if he is holding back, Hamilton's going to have to start to run in the dirty air covered by the Red Bull.
Exactly, yes. There's so many possibilities, and that's why we love this. There's so many options for the strategy, and possibly using Valtteri Bottas, not saying they are, but possibly. If they are, Max knows that, and he will be backing up Lewis a little bit because he doesn't want to get up behind Valtteri. He wants Valtteri's tyres to disappear.
Okay, so Bottas in the free air, 15.8. 15.8. He is the car ahead. It's going to be absolutely critical to catch and pass if we can.
If we can. Does Max Verstappen, I'd love to hear the response from Max Verstappen. Does he then tell Gianpiero Lambiase, well, actually, I don't think I can catch him. I might be better off sitting where I am.
Yes, but he won't say that on the radio, I don't think. But,
that gives the game away a bit too much.
It's just an added stress again. You know, when they had such pace coming into this weekend, Red Bull and Max's lapping qualifying, and the pace that he had at the start of the race, suddenly it's really stressful for him because he's up behind Lewis Hamilton, his main rival's teammate.
And that's why you see the feet, the toes twitching and tapping on the pit wall throughout this race, throughout week after week of Formula One racing. It's nervous, it's stressful for the team because there's nothing they can do to affect the way that the driver is driving out there, but it is a team sport and they want to help him as much as they can. That is Gianpiero Lambiase, Max Verstappen's race engineer, writing down some instructions there for the mechanics, maybe at the pit crew for the pit stop. Not quite sure, as Pierre position swapping all the time. Perez now behind Norris as people start to pit. Giovinazzi and Russell and Stroll, and I think Pierre Gasly has now got Fernando Alonso. As all out comes George Russell right behind car number 99, Antonio Giovinazzi. Almost got him at the pit stop.
Yeah, that's the fight for P10 for that final point, so an important one.
So this is how Fernando Alonso got overtaken by Pierre Gasly, all the way around the outside once again on fresher tyres. Pierre Gasly, well, he's got the grip out of the corner.
Yeah, he has, but I mean, why don't we learn from this? Why don't we just run wider through the corners when we're the car in front? But it just feels wrong. It feels wrong to be taking a wide line to cover your line for the next corner.
Ouch!
So this is for the race win, so you're defending. I'll leave you to it.
Right.
It's interesting because his last comment was, "You're not in the fight for the win."
But not necessarily the win for Valtteri Bottas. This is the race win for Verstappen or for Hamilton, or is it for Bottas? If he's going longer on a one-stop, do Mercedes think that could be the best way to run this race now? All will be revealed at the end of 72 laps. But I tell you what, Max Verstappen has caught Valtteri Bottas at a good time here with DRS usage down the main straight if he can make this move into turn one. And he's going to be a bit too far back to make this move into turn one, which could now see Max Verstappen getting held up a bit by Valtteri Bottas throughout the rest of this lap. Really, turn one is the big overtaking opportunity into the chicane at turn 11. Yeah, there's a chance there as well. But now Verstappen's going to be unsettled. He's going to be held up by that Mercedes car in front, struggling on his tyres, but going long for a one-stop race.
Yeah, and it's also tricky for Max because he doesn't want to push his tyres too hard to damage those rears. Lewis might be holding back and looking after his tyres for later in the race, whereas Max is pushing this hard in the dirty air behind the race leader, Valtteri.
So the view from Valtteri Bottas's Mercedes. Former winner here, the only man in consecutive years to win the F3 Masters at Zandvoort, up against the man who also has won in the junior formula here in the F3 Masters 2014 for Max Verstappen. And Valtteri Bottas under big pressure
He ran
from
wide.
that Red Bull.
He ran wide through the entry to the chicane there, which would have put him on the back foot. And look how close Max is now.
Yeah.
This is his opportunity.
But look how close Lewis is as well. Valtteri has done a sterling job here to try and hold up Max Verstappen. He's not going to hold him up any longer because with DRS, there he goes. And you can hear the roar from the Dutch Lions in the grandstands, but you can also see the marbles that are being flicked up into the air when he went offline. Now, going offline is Valtteri Bottas to let Lewis Hamilton through. And the upshot of the last 5 or so laps is a 3.5 second advantage for Max Verstappen over Lewis Hamilton is now down to just 7/10.
And the biggest issue here is he had to go offline to overtake Valtteri. So he got all those dirty marbles along the pit straight on his tyres. And it takes a few corners to get rid of that.
Well, we can see it once again.
Hey, madam.
He's got the speed, he's got the grip,
Walang
he's got
boses.
the pressure tyres, but now he starts to flick up a lot of marbles. Don't really see it from
Bakit
that
walang
camera
boses?
angle.
Hindi ba ako masi-CPR?
That's a great message, isn't it? That's mega. Let's go.
Hindi kita madinig.
Yeah, look at the fans as well, going crazy for that, as you would expect. But look
Camera,
at the marbles that
audio.
are being flicked up in Lewis's face
Ah,
from Max
ah.
in front on the inside line.
Wala.
Lewis Hamilton.
Hindi ba ako mas-CPR nito, madam?
Past his
Hindi kita
teammate
hindi kita
a lot
madinig.
easier than Max Verstappen had found it. So for about 2 laps,
Hindi
Valtteri
kita
held him
madinig.
up. That's the strategy call Mercedes were able to make However,
Wala akong headset, saglit. I-chat mo sa baba. Private mo. Di ba ako sa PR?
So by the time they get to the next DRS zone,
Sa private.
there's nothing that Mercedes can do to use that DRS because he's too far clear. Bottas now finally comes in, and the hope is they'll get out ahead of Charles Leclerc, and they should easily get out ahead of Charles Leclerc, keeping Valtteri Bottas in third place. The top three here have a distinct pace
Hindi ko marinig.
Yeah, so even though he was left up for way too long, he's still going to come out third, and if everything goes to plan, he'll still have a step on the podium. But it's a disappointing step on the podium for any driver.
The key now for Valtteri Bottas is he's back out in the race on the medium tyres. Can he go?
Wala
to
akong
the end
headset
of
sa
this
baba.
race?
He's getting super lucky with traffic there.
I'm not sure that's
Okay.
true.
So, okay yun.
Maybe with other traffic, but not behind.
Pang
Valtteri.
WH lang.
Not at all. Although
Basta
the race leader traffic.
Basta pag mga 5
It's
hours.
quite a claim there, Jensen.
Wala namang nanonood eh.
Wasn't it? But yeah, this is also a circuit. I get what Lucy
So,
said.
ang hirap
This is a
wala akong
circuit that
headset.
you can really catch traffic in a good place or in a really bad place through those high-speed corners. There's just no way of letting a car behind past.
So Bottas comes in on lap 32 to change his tyres. Pirelli say the medium can do about 35 laps. So that gets us to 67 laps. Now, if there's a safety car, bingo, Valtteri's in very good position because he doesn't have to pit again. But can he stretch
Ayan, meron nag-headset ako.
make a one-stop
Sino?
work? Lewis all over the place through the banking in turn 3.
Ayan, narinig niyo na ako?
Crucially, maintain a gap of about 20 seconds.
Narinig
So,
niyo na ako?
Verstappen and Hamilton, who we think do have to pit again.
Yeah, so he might have to do the move again on Valtteri.
Yeah.
So, but to be
Hindi
fair,
ako
their
narinig.
pace is so much better.
Hello,
than
Sid.
Valtteri. But just going back to what we
Thank
just saw on
you.
board, just going back to what we just saw on board.
Wala, hindi niya ako nadidinig. Meron na
with
akong
Lewis
headset.
through-
Narinig ko na kayo.
The reason Hamilton is saying that Max has got lucky with traffic is that Hamilton, has not been lucky. When he came out from the pits, Crofty, he came out and Alonso actually got ahead of him, or was ahead of him, up into the safety line. So Alonso was in front.
2 seconds.
So don't need to kill the tires, but we need to close to.
I'm watching the ano.
Yeah, so Alonso exiting the pits actually squeezed Hamilton.
Nanonood ako ng ano,
Lose a bit of
ng
time
Formula
with
1.
Alonso compared to, maybe that's what he's saying. Just quickly on Lando Norris, as you can see on your screen, P8. So that fight in front of him sorted itself
Ayan,
out.
narinig na kita. Okay na?
And Lance Stroll pitted at the same time, which was good for George.
Huh?
Not so great for Lance if he wants to get past the Williams, but it has now released
Okay.
Lando to show what he can do.
Sige.
I'll tell you some George Russell news in a moment, Ted, as we actually watch him going around the outside
Ano?
of Robert Kubica into turn 1. The Williams special advisor
Okay,
next
sige.
to me, rather like
Hello, Reyna Stevie. Mega love shoutout sa iyo, my friend.
Okay, sorry.
Sino?
You're always special to me, you know that. And we see Kubica being passed
Yung pangit
by
ko
Lance
pala.
Stroll as well.
Siningit ko lang yung pagla-live.
Is that he's got a
Siningit ko lang yung
5-second
pagla-live
time
nito.
penalty
Tinry ko lang
speeding
itong
in
i-live.
the pit lane.
Tapos inon ko yung ano, monetization. Hindi naman siya na ano, hindi siya nagdilaw. Green.
5-second penalty will either be added to his time at the end of this race or will be added to the time before they can work on his car if he's coming into the pits again. As Fernando Alonso
How are you
makes
doing
his way
today?
out
Hi,
of the
Reyna
pits,
Stevie.
watching
I'm
out
fine.
Esteban
And then
Ocon.
later, after this
making his way
live streaming,
around
I am
turn
going
1
to
and
cook a
behind
lumpia.
Fernando Alonso. There he is, just in the background.
I am going
So
to make a
both
lumpia,
Alpines
and then
pitting,
I am
and
going to
Alonso still
prepare
ahead
a
of his teammate,
Filipino
the,
dish
Fred
for our
Frustrated,
guest.
for the
Char.
Frenchman, sure. Giovinazzi into the pits for a second time.
How are you, Reyna Stevie?
Really early.
Yeah.
Anyone,
Very,
guys,
very
like
easy
my
strategy,
live
but,
streaming
it's great to see so
today?
many overtaking moves
Guys,
around
can you
here.
help
We
me
didn't want talk
to
about it too
share
much
my
before the
live
race, but it's not
streaming
easy
who
to
like
start
the...
But there's been some really, really good moves around the outside, most of them. But yeah, great to see.
Don't want
As
it
soon as
to
we
be
adjust.
impossible, but make it
Mega-
difficult. There's nothing wrong with that. Now here comes Charles Leclerc.
Mega love shoutout sa iyo, Lokong Seryoso mo. I love you, mahal ko. Namimiss na kita.
Leclerc comes out and have a nice clean
Ay, guys.
in front of him. He wished to get his foot down
Nako,
and try and close that gap.
It's always nice when you come
hello,
out. You've got
Sid.
a clean
Hi,
circuit, so you
Sid.
can take your
Mega
tires
love
in as you
shoutout.
want.
Guys who
Just
want
jumping
my
over to
videos,
Bottas.
can you
He's
help me to share?
20 seconds behind his teammate, 25 seconds behind Max. So he is
Parang
still
kilala ko
in
siya.
play to be in front when Max stops again.
Siya,
they
si
could use him
Basilio.
to hold up Max and give
Pumunta
you
ako sa
an
live streaming
opportunity.
niya eh.
Valtteri might actually still have a chance in this race.
Siya.
And that's the key, but he
Ano
needs
channel
to
niya?
close that gap down a lot more. Good news for Bottas on the last lap. He was around about a second clear of Max Verstappen, about 8 tenths clear of Lewis
Anong
Hamilton.
channel mo,
I mentioned
co-host?
Giovinazzi coming into the pits. He's come back out again on the hard compact.
Sid! Oh. Okay, Bongs Kiwi. Hala, nag-mute na, nag-loading na ako, oy. Mahina
That could
internet
be a very
inday.
bold strategy call from Alfa Romeo. Hard tyre to the end of the race, get a safety car with others that we know are going to be stopping. Might promote you back into the top 10, Antonio. We shall see. Down to Ted.
He had a puncture, Crofty. He had to come in.
Oh, right. So,
Yeah.
thanks, Ted.
That's right.
But
Wait,
it was a good
Inspire?
theory.
I would have told you earlier.
Inspire ko ayaw ako, madam mo. Why are you inspire? It's a fire. And I'm fire.
That was a really good idea as well. So that's ruined from great grid positions to terrible races come.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Giovinazzi, had a puncture. Not too long.
I love
after
you
the
too,
first
sila ka
stop,
serious.
down to
CB is now off the post. And I won't be
alam-
applying
Hoy!
But Alfa Romeo, through to you.
Alam niyo ba meron di ba ngayon nagba-viral sa
Into your
TikTok
race
yung
control.
They've
Pwedeng
gone on the
paabot.
radio about Bottas saying, use the
Pwedeng-
tires. They
pwedeng-
told him basically, he's got to stop, hasn't he? Between
Oh, si
him
Madam
and
Gulay, kaya lang wala akong
all
kapartner
they're
dito
interested
eh.
in is
Ang
getting
gagawin
him
ko yung
ahead of
baso.
Max for when Max pits
Pwedeng
next.
patikin.
Max's tires are
Iinom ako ng
11 laps
tubig.
older than Bottas's. So we're going to see assumption he's going to pit earlier. And that's all they're trying to do. But a quick shout out to Lando Norris, who's having a great race.
Di ba? Iinom ako.
That first set of tires. But despite 35 laps on that set, his
Hello,
last
Reyna
lap,
Stevie.
same pace as Daniel
Ay,
Ricciardo.
Sid. Ang kulit mo, mute nga
And
kita, kakabal.
and a double yellow flag being waved in the first part of the lap, and it's for Sebastian.
Sabi
Vettel,
kasi,
as he had a
Reyna
bit of a
Stevie,
spin,
are you,
going
I
through
know
turn
that
three,
you know
very
the
slow
TikTok, right?
as we pick him
This
up.
is a
Nicholas
trending
Latifi
now
is
on the
ahead of him
TikTok.
in
That's
16th place. So I rather get the feeling we had a Vettel spinner at turn 3, but no damage I can see to the car.
Hello, show
Looks like
kita
he's
ni
avoided
Primark
barriers, which
15.
is good news.
That's
Yes.
surprising in terms of here we
Yeah.
go. Oh, he's gone for the inside, lost the
Eh
race.
kasi nga meron trending ngayon sa
But,
TikTok.
that's
Wala lang akong
Well, just missed it.
kapartner. Kung meron lang akong
That's gonna
kapartner
take,
dito,
that's
ayun,
gonna
kunwari,
take a bit of
sa
time,
video
off,
na,
Valtteri
mag-video.
Bottas's
Kasi,
charge towards Verstappen and Hamilton.
gusto
And
ko
a couple of
kumain. I want to eat.
His last
I want
About
banana.
1.5 seconds, 1.5 seconds in that first sector because
Hi,
he was the
Reyna
car having to take
Hello, Reyna
evasive
Stevie.
action. Where do you go? Where do you go? Normally you
Reyna-
just head straight to the
Reyna
center where the
Stevie,
car is, but it was stopping a bit slower than we normally see.
quite, and then it rolled down, which was nice for Valtteri to get around the outside. But yeah, that 1.5 seconds could be crucial to the end
Hello,
of this race.
Sid. Hello,
It
Sid.
certainly could. Everything is
may
in the
nagpalipat.
balance here. It's Max Verstappen that leads. We're on lap 38 out of 72. We have passed
Sana-
half race distance. I think there's a lot to come.
Sana meron nagpalipad sa akin
It's
ng
about size,
250.
as it often is, Jensen. But he who looks after their tyres best will reap the reward.
I was just about to
Sid,
say
88
that.
in dice
Fernando
needs
Alonso
time
and
out.
Ocon.
Okay, everything we've got for the next 4 or 5 laps, please, Max.
You know
Ay,
what
kasi
they
nga
do? They need to change
Primark,
the
kasi
button
nga
now.
Primark, uso yun di ba sa TikTok
I think he's gonna pick the
ngayon?
next
Ikaw
4 or 5
mag-TikTok ka
laps.
na
What do you
Primark, i-follow mo
I
ako
think
sa
it's very
TikTok
possible,
ha.
Karun.
Yes,
I-follow niyo ako sa
they're now
TikTok.
thinking about bringing this next set of stops in early because actually the gap between Hamilton and Verstappen, 2.6, is not an impossible gap for an undercut. They can put pressure if they make a faster pit stop. Both cars, I think, are thinking about their second stops early to cover off an undercut.
I just saw a Red Bull behind a Mercedes then, but it was Checo.
Yeah, this is not the overtake for the lead in any way, shape,
Oh my
or
God, what
form.
happened to you?
That's Hamilton
What happened to you,
getting
Sid
past
88?
Sergio
Why are you
Perez.
having a headache because of
Sergio
what?
is way down the field.
Is my
Sadly,
is my
late place.
is giving you a
Actually, he is
trouble?
a lap down in
It
this
must-
race. Might still score points for Perez, but I would expect
Nako,
him to be
ano ka,
stopping
mga
again,
anak
because
na.
he did come
Hindi
in
kasi
rather
uso ngayon sa
early
trend,
after
trending
flat
yun ngayon sa
spotting those
TikTok.
tyres, the hard
Can I get
compact
someone
tyres are taken to run for a lot
like that?
longer. So, you pick Max Verstappen first if you're Red Bull.
Nakakainis nga kasi alam mo pagtawa ko, meron akong nawawalang ipin.
Got track
Kasi-
position over Bottas as well.
Pag ako tumatawa, nawawala yung isa kong ipin. Hindi ko alam kung sino nagnakaw ng ipin ko.
Mercedes
Tingnan
now
mo.
respond by doing an early pit stop of their own. So
Nakipaglaplapan kasi ako guys, kaya nawala yung isang ipin ko, isang bagang ko.
Mercedes has said we've got to get Hamilton in, and they're going to use
the Aero Vlog, mega love shoutout.
Rebel haven't got another set of mediums to put on. So Hamilton, they found a gap to him, or they hope they found a gap to him, as Ricciardo now comes through, has... so now Hamilton's going to have to pick his way through traffic here, as he comes out side
Ate
by
Aero Vlog,
side
akit
with
ka na.
Lance Stroll, who backs off because he's been lapped.
You've had great pace. Great
Just,
pace.
dyan sa iyo, kasi hindi ako pwede dito. Bawal kami magkismisan.
I don't think they thought they'd get him out in front of Ricciardo, but they had to give it a go. Because Max
Sino yan? Sino chismoso yan?
clears Ricciardo. And he's 2 seconds in front of Lewis.
Sa Ate Era pala. Sorry naman Ate Era. Mga inuts.
Yeah, the thing is, Max can pit now, and he's clear of Ricciardo because he's got that.
Tulungan nyo naman ako tulungan nyo naman ako mag-TikTok tapos mag-do-it. Hindi ako, gusto ko meron akong ka-do-it.
Work for them, but Max Verstappen.
Gusto ko yung magsayaw-sayaw ako talaga. Nag-try talaga ako magsayaw, Madam Gulay, sumakit ng katawan ko. Nag-twerk back ako. Ay, sakit ng tagiliran ko. Parang may naipit na ugat sa tagiliran ko. Hirap pa mag-twerk back.
A pace difference, medium to hards.
Yeah, we saw Checo struggling on that tire, locking up.
Hindi na nga ako makatulog pag hindi ako nakaka-TikTok. O diba, ang ganda ng influensya niyo talaga sa akin. Very talaga.
A good gap on Lewis, but they should have told Lewis on the radio what they were.
Ikaw ang choreographer ko. Tuloy ko, nag-loading. Inaantok na. Bungs Kiwi. May gawang shoutout sa'yo, Kuya Bungs Kiwi ng New Zealand.
To be the fastest tyre and has not keeping another set of mediums for this race. Has that worked to Mercedes' advantage? Scrub set of mediums, I'm told, so they've not been used very much.
So there's Lewis's first sector on this set of tyres. He's gone purple, the best first sector of anyone in the race.
Sige, matulog ka na.
Through the second sector, which I'm sure will also be purple.
We shall see. It is from Verstappen.
Matulog ka na. Sige na, matulog ka na.
Every time he goes through there, Hamilton does look to be just a little bit closer, but
Aray, ikaw, Sid.
with work to do
gagalak.
to try and
Hello,
get him
Sid.
down. Valtteri Bottas runs in third, 5 seconds.
Hello,
now.
Sid. Gagala ka ba?
Hamilton after the front two pitted for a second time.
Ako una i-follow mo. Primark 8483. Okay, sige, i-follow kita.
Looks like a reasonable tire on the
Bakit ka na naman umuungol, Ate Inday?
Leclerc and Sainz looking at their lap times and making sure that it's still a decent tyre for Max to be on. Fastest lap of the race for Lewis Hamilton. He's 3.1 seconds behind at the end of lap 41. We've got another 31 to go, and Ted, down to you.
I can understand why Verstappen's asking that, because historically it hasn't been a great
Madam
tyre for Red Bull.
ano, Ate Era? Ano, Ate Era? Hello, Ate Milay Talon.
This white wall hard tyre, so I can understand Max is a bit concerned. Yes, it will easily get him to lap 72. Max is going to have to do a bit more work to make this one work. But this decision, as far as Mercedes was concerned, was made ages ago when they actually decided which tyres to ditch at the end of sessions, Crofty, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Those two mediums to carry on into the race.
Yeah,
They love that medium tyre.
Could yet pay off.
Sige, Primark.
Norris, who on lap 42
May gagawin pa ako, Primark, after nito, mag-ano ako, tawag dito, magluluto ako ng lumpia. Magluluto ako ng lumpia. Nakuhin ko kaya yung banana ko. Sasabihin ko sa banana ko, Daddy,
hasn't pitted yet, so it's going to be interesting to see how many more laps he can go for.
Well, they're hoping now, maybe for a safety car, cut down
mega love shoutout
pit
din
lane
sa'yo.
loss and get Lando in and out.
Uso yun sa TikTok, Madam Gulay, tingnan mo, magti-TikTok ako ng ganun.
On the same
Ako lang yung gagawa, iinom ako ng tubig.
Similar strategies because Perez pitted really early
Iinom lang ng tubig. Kakain ako ng banana. Tapos with emotions. Kasi wala akong kasama.
In terms of the tyre usage on Lando Norris as we ride on board with Lance Stroll. The car in front of him is George Russell. Don't forget, George Russell has a 5-second penalty to be added to his race time or to his next pit stop. 8 laps.
Nako, si Verstappen. Laps
for Sergio Perez over Lando Norris. which there's 1.2 second gap between the two of them at the moment. Shows you how well Lando is driving if he can maintain that before he really does have to come in to the pits. Has Lance Stroll got a pace advantage in his battle with George Russell? We shall see as they go into turn one as Lando Norris comes into the pits and Nikita Mazepin also into the pits for Mazepin.
Siya na ba?
Last venture into the pits in this
Siya na ba,
race.
Madam Gulay?
He's been retired from this race. He was running down in 19th place. Well, at the moment, 0.4 of a second on the last lap. Lewis Hamilton was slower than Max Verstappen, as we see Lando Norris pitting, coming back out in 11th and ahead of George Russell. Back to Karun.
Yeah, further to that radio message, Lewis also saying he's not happy with his tyre choice. He thinks it's too many laps to be going on this tyre against the hard tyre of Max Verstappen. I think essentially he's saying we should have also gone on the hard tyre to allow me because that is the McLaren against George Russell there. So that's Norris on a fresh set of tyre. That was important, Norris, because he's now come out right behind Ricciardo.
Yeah, and I think Daniel Ricciardo there rather helped matters because he was the car in front of George Russell. And might just slow down enough to allow Norris to come through. Right, on board with George Russell.
Hala, bakit naka-log out ako sa mga ano ko?
Around this track at the moment, albeit not much overtaking.
Madam, i-PM mo sa akin yung link niya, ididikitan ko lahat.
As soon as Max pumped in super fast laps on the first 2 laps of this hard tyre, you immediately know the hard tyre works. And it's probably the tyre.
May 10 siguro.
I was just about to call Lewis Hamilton's bluff and go, yeah, it might be a long way to go.
Sige. Ay, Madam Gulay, pag nagaganito ba, kailangan hindi malagpas sa 1 oras o 5 oras ang live?
However, I think Max has just had to get past Alonso and
Tapos i-hashtag lang sa kanila.
Lewis is really good at looking after tyres. It's something he's definitely learned over the years. And, if he's put in a sticky spot, he'll still get the best out of that tyre. So it's definitely not over yet. And traffic is obviously playing a big part right now.
Taking any credit for that at all from your years as teammates?
No, can't even remember being in F1. It was that long ago.
It wasn't real.
Pero nakakatuwa, hindi ako nasisiro sa pag-live ko ngayon
Pierre Gasly is in 4th place.
O yung ano lang, pasulpot-sulpot lang. May isa akong viewers ngayon. Sino kaya ito? Yung organic friend ko to. Hoy, gumalaw ka naman dyan, yung nanonood dyan.
Oh yeah, hasn't he? He's always got the best out of
Sira ulo tong isa na to. Hoy, ikaw dyan, yung tumitingin dyan, naninilip sa akin dyan, mag-type ka naman.
Yeah, great job by him. We haven't really
normal ka. Tingin ka ng tingin sa akin, tinititigan. Sino tinititigan mo?
There's still so much life left on that last tire. I don't know why you rushed it. Yeah, copy Lewis. We'll chat about it later.
Because he won't know the overview. Is this common for drivers that you think that was the wrong choice? I just need to tell the team now you made a mistake.
Grabe, ang daming nanonood dun sa ano, ang daming nanonood dun sa sa videos na Dapat pala nag-start ako ng live streaming nito kanina pa. Hindi ngayon. Nag-loading na. Sige. Pero madam, mamaya bababa na ako ha. Kasi, mag-aasikaso ako. May bisita kami. Sa private ba? Yun na yun. Okay, noted na. Hala, nag-loading na ako. Malalaglag ako. Oo, malalaglag ako pag inano ko to. Magluto na kaya ako. Stop ko na ito, madam, no? Nasa baba ang cellphone ko, malalaglag ako. Ah, okay. Noted. Paano na ako makabalik nito? Paano na ako makabalik nito sa LS mo? Nalaglag na ako. Hindi. Ano mo nga ako, ibagsak mo nga ulit ako. Hindi ako makabalik. Hindi ako makabalik eh. Ay, ito na. Ito na. Hori, nag-loading si Inday. Kanina ko pa yung nafe-feel. Pagkaki... Okay lang yun. Uy, saglit, tapos na ata sila sa baba. Sige madam. Anin ka muna sila, intindihin ko muna sila dun. Bye-bye na, saglit lang ha, mag-video ako sa baba. Message mo sa akin yung link ha. Okay. Okay, sige. Okay, bye-bye. Is that?